I do a project, I like to give credit to whoever designed it if I didn't design it myself. This is one of those pieces. I went to the computer, booted it up, got Google Images going, typed in wood turning, and if you haven't done it, you'll be amazed at how many different things you'll see that you might want to try yourself. This was one of the ones I wanted to try. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the name of who designed it. So if it was you, thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't give your name, but all I saw was a picture of it. I took it as a challenge. I had to figure out how to go about this. Now, if you're interested in seeing how I made this, as Daniel would say, let's get to work. I'm starting out with 9 pieces of walnut and 9 pieces of maple. Each one of them is 13/16 of an inch thick, 2.5 inches wide, and 9.5 inches long. I've taken 11 of them that I'm going to use to glue up this block. Now, I've never done this before, but I've seen this technique where I'm going to take newspaper and glue in between each of these pairs of wood. I'll put glue on both sides of each pair, then sandwich a piece of newspaper in between, clamp it all together, let it dry, and hopefully it'll all stick together. Then I'm going to take a compass, find the center, draw a circle to that 9-inch maximum, cut it out roughly on the bandsaw, and then take it over to the lathe. So let me take care of the glue up and I'll be back. I'm going to be using Tight Bond 3 because it has the longest open time of any glue I have in my shop. Not a great deal of squeeze out, but at least there's a little bit, so I believe I've got enough glue in there. Now I'm just going to set it aside for a little while. Let it dry, and I'll be back. Well, this has been sitting here now for about 18 or 20 hours, which should be plenty. Now, the thing is this going to stay together? Well, so far so good. I'm just going to take a scraper, scrape off the little bit of glue that's on this side. I think I'll put it through the drum sander, make sure that everything is cleaned up. Then I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw, as I said I was going to do, and cut this into a circle. I'll be back. Now I'm going to put this block on here between my spur drive and my live center, and I just want to true up the outside edge. I'm going to be turning this at 1000 RPM. I have sanded the outside to 400 grit now, and now comes the tricky part. Can I take these apart? I do not want to enter on the end grain if I can help it at all. If I damage this a little bit, that can still be sanded down. So now it's time to take it over to the workbench and see what happens. I'm going to use my 1.5 inch chisel, try to get it perfectly between the two strips of wood, and then use my mallet to drive down and see if I can get between them. I don't expect this to be perfect, but I can always sand those surfaces. Alright, that worked better than I really expected, to be honest. I'll just carry on, do all the other joints, and I'll be back after they're separated. I forgot to mention, before I started separating these, that I took a square and drew a line across the center perpendicular to the strips. Then I took a straight edge that's 1 inch wide and drew a line 1 inch from that center to each side of it. I will be able to use those later when I separate these. These came apart very easily. I'm kind of surprised by that. Now, using these lines, if I move every second one over 1 inch, you can see how the pattern starts to develop. Now, after I've got it all lined up, I probably could glue it just using one clamp right across the center. But I think what I will do is glue them up in pairs so I can get 2 clamps on there and make sure they're lined up perfectly. Take a little more time, but be more accurate. Now I have to get the glue off first. I've sanded this one just a little bit with a 120 grit sanding block, and it looks to me like it's transferred the ink from the paper I was using right into the wood. I'm not too concerned with that, as long as it's not visible on the ends where it's going to stick out beyond. And if I have to, other than these 2 end pieces, I can use my drum sander and clean them up. So I'm going to go clean all this up, and then I'll be back. Now I want to make sure I don't get too much glue in here, because I do not want it squeezing out in this area. It'd be difficult to clean out. I made some marks here to be sure that I keep the glue between those, and hopefully that will be good enough. Well, after spending a lot of time waiting for glue to dry, it's all put together now. Let's see what this looks like. Not too bad. Not like I can do much about it if it wasn't. There's a small gap. Apparently I didn't clamp this well enough. I do have a very small gap right there. We'll make that the bottom of the bowl. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take this and put it through the drum sander very gently, little tiny cuts at it each time, and just straighten these out. I'll do that and then I'll be right back. Well, after putting it through the drum sander, all of these edges that I had rounded over were sharp because it was taking it down below where the round over was. So I had to take a sanding block and go over all of these, make them nicely rounded again so I don't cut myself basically. And incidentally, these edges are very sharp, but I'm not going to mess with them. I want them left pristine. Now my trick is going to be finding the center again, because of course offsetting all of these, staggering these strips has taken the center away. So I'm going to use my center finder. It's 10 inches across in this dimension, and I believe it's roughly 9.5 this way. So I've got to get my 10 inches lined up, and then I just need to center lengthwise across this center walnut strip, and then center it across the strip. And I'm just eyeballing it there. That'll be close enough. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and I'll take it over to the lathe and get it so it's running true. Join me over there. I've decided to use a threaded glue block that I made quite a long time ago and haven't used yet. So I'm just going to use this centering jig, put it on the center mark, drop this block into place, and now I'm going to use hot glue. I'm a big believer in hot glue as long as you make sure you get it hot enough. And this has been warming up for quite a while. So I'm just going to put a very generous amount all the way around. Then I will let it cure for a few minutes to make sure it's totally cold and set. And then I'll take it over to the lathe, and I hope you'll join me there. All right, even though I do have a lot of faith in hot glue, I've got my live center up here for a little support for a while. I want the flat rim of the bowl to end about 1 inch from here. So I'm going to make a mark at 1 1/8 of an inch. Run a circle around here. That just gives me a little guidance to start this bowl. I'll be turning at 1000 RPM using my 3/8 inch bowl gouge. The live center is not in fact touching the wood. It's just there so that if for some reason the glue should let go or something else will happen, this will only come so far and it won't go flying across the room. The live center will stop it. So now I'll do a few cuts here just to make sure that everything's holding, then I'll get the live center out of the way. One of the most important things to me when turning this is to keep my hand and my arm away from these edges. They're very sharp. They'd go through me like butter. So I'm using the far end of the tool rest to hold my arm on to make sure I'm not getting any closer. I believe this is turned as well as I want it. I'm just going to do a little sanding on here, and I'll be back to show you the finished product. Now it's a matter of using a sharp putty knife to get between the wood and the glue so I can remove the glue block. After I scrape the glue off, I'm going to use my random orbit sander on the bottom just to clean this up. All right, just a few seconds with 120 grit, and I believe I've got all of that off. I'm going to go through the grits up to, I think I have 400, then I'll be back for the next step. I think I need to do a little explanation. On one of my past videos, I turned something with my coal jaws that was not perfectly round, and I had some of the buttons in different holes. And one of my viewers was upset because he believed that if you don't use all the buttons, it's not secure enough. So I just want to say, if you think what I'm doing is not safe, don't do the same thing. If you don't think something is safe, you should never do it. I think this is safe, and I'll explain what I did here. First thing I did was measure the length from there to here. Found the exact center of that and the center across this board. Marked that. Then I brought my live center up to make sure it stayed there. I put this button and this button on there to hold it. This button here, and drove wedges in there to make sure that it's sitting safely and securely. Now I think I'm just fine with this. Again, I'll say, if you don't believe that, please don't do it. Now the first thing I want to do is just move in here with my tool rest. I'm going to use my Cindy Drozda Vortex tool to make a couple of rings. Then I'm going to get this out of the way, take out my live center, put in my Jacob's chuck with the bit that I use to make the recess for my logo coins, and do that. So first thing, a couple of rings on here. And I'm turning this at 500 RPM for the rings. I don't want to go any faster than that. I do want to stay safe. When I do the recess, I will do that at 250 RPMs, as I always do. And there it is. I've got it signed now, the date, or at least the year, the two species of wood. Now I'm going to take it off of here. I'm going to give it a bath in some mineral oil, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like when it's all finished. Well, I think it turned out pretty nice. I like it. My wife is a little, maybe, but that's okay. At least I know she's not always just telling me it's nice if she doesn't really like it. So I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe it gave you an idea how to do something. Taking apart that newspaper joint was kind of interesting. Actually, it went a lot nicer, easier than I thought it was going to. So maybe you want to give this a try. Let me know if you do. Let me know what you think of this. Click the like button if you like it. Share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you've already subscribed and haven't done so, click that little bell, the notification bell beside the subscribe button, and you'll know every time I put a video out. Thanks again for dropping by. I hope you'll come back next time. Have a great day in your shop and be safe. Bye-bye now.